It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Welcome back to the Big Mountain on our normal night, Wednesday. And you know, Steve, I thought we were going to be on Wednesday for a while, but next week it's Christmas Day, and the week after that, you want to do it on Christmas Day?
Why not? Okay. What better way to celebrate Jesus' birthday than have making some bets?
All right, we might be on Thursday next week, but hey, we're on Wednesday this week, and we got some of our peeps there. Say hello in the chat. Make sure we know who is here. I see Steven and Squeeze Money going back and forth, and there's Squeeze Money. He's, he's a Coug fan, and they're dealing with a lot. They got a lot of transfers out. Now their coaching staff is going bye-byes. And yeah, they're struggling there. And you know, there's rumors are starting. Could this be a Marshall 2.0 pulling out of the bowl? The AD said today, no, we're playing in the bowl. That's not going to happen. But I'll tell you what, they're struggling.
And we're going to talk later about portal stuff, and I think you're going to see more of that. The way the portal is working, more and more teams leaving, or having coaching changes, having big turnovers in the portal. We may see more of that. Maybe not the Cougs. Maybe there might be another team that we don't know about. And I did see, you talked about the people leaving. Mateer, I think they announced.
Yes.
He announced right before I came over that he is going to Oklahoma. So.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Officially, he's announced Oklahoma, which to me, I think that makes him one of top 5 Heisman contenders for next year, honestly, at Oklahoma. And the way he performed for the Cougs, they were kind of a one-man team at certain points this year.
Yeah.
At least puts him in the race. It puts him on, I'm maybe not top 5, but he'll be.
Did you just say Heisman?
Yeah.
I'm salty.
I know.
I don't want to relive that. I'm very salty about the Heisman. Let's get the picks.
Okay.
We're going to go in chronological order. So, yes, the CFP are going to be mixed in. There'll be like picks 4, 5, 6, 7 or something like that. So we're going to go in order. We'll get to the CFP here, quarterfinals, fairly quickly. We got a couple bowls we want to do first, and then we're going to hit this weekend's games. And the games that are being played tonight, my UNLV Rebels with the Mountain West are playing tonight. And I'm recording the beginning of that.
Okay.
They're playing in the LA Bowl. We already picked that game. Yeah. We both took the UNLV.
That's the Gronk Bowl, right?
Yes. LA Gronk, whatever. That is.
Presented by Gronk.
Hey guys, let's play some football.
We like football.
But anyway,
before we do picks,
yeah,
I got my Navy Chief hat on today in honor of the Navy midshipmen who beat Army this last week. Very exciting, really good game. You never know what's going to happen in those games. Army had a great season this year. Yep. They had an awesome season. But you never know what's going to happen. So go Navy. Army is beat for this year.
So Squeeze Money makes a good point. The school can't afford to lose out on the larger payout from the bowl game. Money, 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 money. Makes the world go round, 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 and it certainly makes college football into what it is today.
Yes, everything.
And you were give you kudos. You got that pick right.
Yeah.
Our legit last pick of the regular. It's a special game, but still a regular season-ish game. You got it right. I got it wrong. Whatever.
Go Navy.
I think we're both 2-1 right now on our bowl picks. I meant to do that. We'll have that for you guys next week. I think we picked all of the same bowl picks, and I think we were 2-1. Coming into tonight, if I remember correctly.
I'm going to sing for you here.
Really?
Go Navy, we're Navy all the way.
That was more of a chant.
Well, but it's part of a song.
Oh, okay.
It's part of Anchor's Way. So.
You want to sing it with me?
No, I'm not singing
Okay, let's get to the first picks. We have the New Orleans Bowl. We've got Georgia Southern versus Sam Houston, and the line here, Steve, is 4.5. So fairly close line. What do you think about these two teams? And then we'll give our picks.
Yeah, it's so hard with these bowl games and trying to look up and do the research. I like Georgia Southern. I liked them all year. I was trying to compare, who's got players opting out, who's this and who's that. It's so hard to do. I like Georgia Southern. I think Georgia Southern is the better team. What do you think before we make our official pick?
I completely agree. I've liked Georgia Southern all year. They played Boise early on, gave them a run for their money. They come into this game 8-4. Does Georgia Southern? They've of course come out of the Sun Belt Conference. This is a Sun Belt versus a Conference USA game. But 2 of their 4 losses, one was to Boise, the other one was to Ole Miss. So I mean, Nothing wrong with losing to those two teams, for crying out loud. Ole Miss fighting for a college football playoff spot. They didn't get it. And Boise, the number 3 seed, for Pete's sake. So I agree with you. I have liked this Georgia Southern team all year. I was impressed with them early on because I did get to see them playing some of the Mountain West games. They played Boise and Nevada here early on. And so, yes, I totally agree with you. And Sam Houston, honestly, 9-3, they surprised me this year. They had a really strong year. I just like this Sun Belt team in Georgia Southern better.
Yep. So I guess so.
Yeah. What do you?
I'm going with Georgia Southern to cover the 4.5. I'm assuming you are as well.
I am as well. I agree with you. And again, I just think they bring more to the table, and I just like their entire season of work coming out of the Sun Belt. So yes, we agree. We're going to agree a fair amount. I know we will. We are 50% on our CFP predictions, though. We disagree on 2 of them.
Right,
so stay tuned. All right, let's get to the next one. The Cure Bowl, being played down in Orlando, Florida. This is Ohio. Stevens, Ohio Bobcats, the MAC champions, versus Conference USA champions, Jacksonville State. So Ohio comes in 10-3, and Jacksonville State comes in 9-4, and the line is 3.5. I love this matchup. You're getting the 2 champions from G5 conferences, both really, really good years here. I want to watch this bowl. I'm anxious for this bowl. What are your thoughts on this bowl?
Yeah, like you said, 2 champions here. Both coming in with a lot of momentum here. For Ohio, the way they close the season, winning the MAC, they're going through a coaching change. I think they already have their new coach. But as far as I know, I haven't seen any transfers yet. Anybody going in the portal.
There was a few, but I don't think it's going to have any effect. I mean, everybody has a few backup-e's and things like that, but I don't think it has any effect at all.
Yeah, so I like Ohio Bobcats. I'm sure Steven is on cloud freaking 9. Early in the season, he told us Ohio had a chance. I really thought it was going to be Miami of Ohio or maybe Bowling Green, but his Bobcats pulled through. They won the MAC, and I'm just going to go ahead and make that pick of Ohio to cover 3.5 points.
And I'm with you again. I'm gonna take Ohio at the -3.5. Both of these teams are coming in really strong. I actually kind of struggled with this pick. I think this is a great matchup. They're both coming in riding high, conference champions, as we said. I struggled. I wouldn't. We're picking this because we said we're picking every bowl game, but I don't feel comfortable with my pick because I think this is a close game. I'm anxious for the game, and I think this could be a really good bowl game. And again, like I said, I love that we're getting 2 conference champions to play each other.
Me too. And I'm not going to bet this game, but I feel good picking Ohio. But you never know what's going to go or happen. I'm not going to pick it, but I'm not going to bet it. But I'm picking Ohio to cover 3.5.
Okay. So we got one more, and then we get into the CFP quarters. So the one more is the Gasparilla Bowl, played down in Tampa, Florida. This is Florida versus Tulane. The line actually moved down to 11.5. It was 13.5 for a long time. It's moved actually down to 11.5. Of course, Florida coming in here 7-5. Tulane coming in at 9-4. What do you think?
So Tulane had a fantastic season, really good season. They were in the running for, maybe that to be in that G5 playoff spot for most of the season. I believe if I remember they beat Navy pretty bad at one point in the season, and then they if I remember correctly, they got into the American Conference Championship game against Army, went up and traveled to West Point, got their butts kicked a little bit.
Yes, they did.
And honestly, they looked like they didn't even want to be there. It was a very strange, some of it's the weather and all that.
Yeah.
They have some things going on there. They're working through it. There was a lot of rumors about their coach leaving and all that stuff. They looked like they didn't want to be there, which gives me bad vibes about the way they closed the season. Right. They had a great season. And for Florida struggled. They had one of the hardest schedules in the country. They struggled to get wins for a lot of the season, but they got some big wins down the stretch. They really started playing well, and I can't remember the quarterback's name, but he just played better and better when he was healthy. They got that big win over Ole Miss there at the end of the season. I love everything about Florida, the way they're playing. They just look great. They're peaking at the right time. Honestly, I think they could go and give anybody in the country a run for their money right now. The way they knocked Ole Miss had a chance to punch their ticket in for the college football playoff and contend for a national title. And Florida smacked them around a little bit at the end of the season. So, kind of a tale of two teams coming in.
100%. And, I love Florida. They are riding high. They have the deeper talent pool, without a doubt. I think they're the better team. And no Mensa at quarterback. Mensa, however you say it, for Tulane. He's now committed to Duke.
Yeah.
He was a really strong talent, really good quarterback for Tulane. They don't have him, and as I think it was Squeeze Money said, after the championship game and what they didn't do in that game and some of the transfer portal type of items, Florida easily, and I think that's our pick. We both agree. We're taking Florida at minus 11.5. I was surprised this thing dropped 2 points when I was doing the slides today. I don't know what the heck happened, but I am betting this game. Yeah. I said I'm staying away from the previous Cure Bowl. I am betting this Gasparilla Bowl. I am betting Florida. I really like the 11.5. Mm-hmm. I think they really take it to Tulane here.
I got Florida, I think, at 11.5. And I mean, I like them for more than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Or I got them at 13.5, I think what it was.
Yeah, right.
We're picking them at 11.5, but I locked it in my bet at 13.5, and I felt good about that over 2 touchdowns. So, so.
I know Mr. Ed is retired Navy, as he said. He says they ground Army.
Yep.
We talked about that. I think he got on a little bit late, but Steve's got his hat on because he was singing earlier.
Go Navy.
We won't have him sing again.
No more anchors away?
Nah, I think we're okay.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
I'm ready.
CFB.
I'm ready.
Quarterfinals. We're going to start with it's Friday night game, right? IU, Indiana, versus Notre Dame. I'm wearing my Indiana shirt that you got me. Thank you very much. I think that probably gives away what I'm going to be picking here, but I want you to talk about this game because this is a Big Ten game that we have versus the Mr. Independent Notre Dame. Yeah. So what are you thinking?
So first time in a long time these two teams have met. We all know about Curt Cignetti in Indiana. People didn't know about him coming into this season. We tried to tell everybody. Some people had to Google him. But Coach of the Year, 3 different ways. Curtis Rourke has a fantastic season, transferred from Ohio, ran the offense absolutely perfect. Like we talked about, should have been a Heisman contender, should have maybe got on the stage if he didn't have that little injury. Just a great Indiana team and a balanced team. Their offense, the passing game, their running game, their defense has been very solid. They had that one trip up against Ohio State, and you could just see Ohio State had some, better talent at some key positions. The score kind of got out of hand with some special teams play, but they did get that win over Michigan, which is a huge win over Michigan. They go 11-1. They've earned this spot, and a Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois, who I think finished 6th or 7th in the MAC. So they lose to kind of a mid-pack MAC team. But after that point, they just went on a roll where they were just killing people, crushing people, leaving no doubts. Army came in undefeated, and they spanked them pretty good. They didn't have the hardest schedule in the world either, and that's kind of the knock on both of these teams, not having a real hard schedule. Notre Dame did have the early win against Texas A&M that kind of boosted their resume. So for me, 2 really obvious, solid teams. Notre Dame is the 7.5 point favorite. I think that line is kind of dumb, honestly. I would have made this game. I think I would have made Notre Dame maybe about a 3.5 point favorite. You have in-state rivals here. I don't know if you really call them rivals though, because they haven't played each other a lot. But 2 in-state teams. Right. Indiana is ready for this game. Coach Cignetti always has this team ready to play. This should be a fantastic game. I'm glad it's on Friday night. There's going to be some weather that affects this game. South Bend, Indiana, the Midwest, that region of the country, can be affected by the lakes. By the flat land out there. I think they're calling for snow and low temperatures in the 20s, but both teams are ready to deal with that. They're, I don't think weather is going to be so much of a factor as far as against one team or the other. It just might make the game maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit, more of a defensive minded game. For me, I just, Notre Dame, very good team, good offensive line, very good defense. I like their quarterback. They don't have a lot of weapons, honestly, on offense. A lot of the games that they've won is just by being a lot better than the other team, and I don't know that that's really the case this game.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and make my pick here, JY.
Yep, go.
I like Indiana plus the 7.5. I also have my Indiana shirt on underneath tonight. So go Hoosiers. 7.5 points. I love it. I did bet this game with my actual money.
Yep.
I think it'll be not a very close game within one score.
Right.
I do think Notre Dame is the favorite here, but I think Indiana has a good chance to upset them. So I'm taking Indiana plus the 7.5. I love getting over a touchdown.
I completely agree with everything you said. I'm also taking Indiana, as our viewers already see, at plus 7.5. I've already bet this game. I think it's been plus 7.5. I think when the odds came out, I don't think it's moved.
I think at one point it was 8.5.
Oh, has it?
It was like fluctuating a little bit, around 8.5.
Well, I took it at 7.5. I'm very comfortable, like you said, to get that touchdown for the win. And I mean, how are you feeling about upset here? Like, I would think of the 4 games we have, I think this has, in my opinion, probably the biggest chance for an upset.
Yeah,
without getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, so without getting ahead of ourselves.
Let's wait and answer that question.
What I'll say is I think Notre Dame should be a very slight favorite, a 2.5 to 3.5 point favorite. So that really tells you all you need to know about where I think, is there a chance for an upset? I'd say 60-40 Notre Dame winning, but Indiana definitely has a chance here.
Shout out to our producer. He does have the game up on the screen. JMU,
awesome.
The team you and I both picked, if I remember correctly, is up by a touchdown on Western Kentucky University. So PW Baker Productions always crushing it. And there it is. And UNLV starts in about 10 minutes-ish. And like I said, I'm recording it, so it's all good.
It's all good.
I wasn't down here. Let's see. Of course, Steven says he's rooting for Curtis Rourke, but he does think ND wins. Home game for ND. And Surf City Bill says ND by 12. So we shall see.
I think the thing with Notre Dame is I really do think they're much harder to get a handle on. We saw Indiana go through a Big Ten schedule where they played both Ohio State and Michigan. So we kind of have an idea of where they're at. Notre Dame is harder. They got that early win over Texas A&M, like we talked about, but they lose to a middle of the road MAC team.
Right.
And then their big win later on the season is to was over Army, which God bless Army, and they had a great season. I don't know if that tells you much about a CFP team that they got such a big win over Army. So it's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised to see Indiana upset Notre Dame, but if Notre Dame is better than we thought and they just didn't get it really a chance to show it, they could, end up winning by a couple touchdowns.
Well, some people think Army should have gotten in the CFB. I'm just telling you what I've seen people say.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. I don't have anything to add.
If Army would have beaten Notre Dame, and been an undefeated American conference champion, I think they would have had a case to make against Boise.
Well, people are making it right now.
I think that's silly.
The people make cases for just about anything. So. All right, let's get to the second game. This is your Penn State Nittany Lions. You will be at this game. Dress warmly. I think it's supposed to be cold.
Yeah, so Genetics was in here earlier talking about the weather. High of 29 that day.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's going to be probably kickoff. It'll be about 20 degrees. The winds are supposed to be about 12 to 15 miles per hour. Average, and I've seen gusts up to 30 miles an hour.
Oh, really?
It doesn't look like there's any snow forecast. Just going to be windy, cold, just a miserable game. I saw footage of SMU practicing in 72 degrees and sunny, but they were playing loud music, so we'll see.
Well, it's December in Happy Valley. Like, that's just what it is. All right, so SMU coming in here as the 11 seed, up to Happy Valley, to Penn State as the 6 seed. 8.5 is the spread. We are coming out of the chat here. What do we have to say, Steve? Again, I'm going to let you roll because Penn State's, not only your team, but it's a Big Ten team. So let's talk about it.
So first of all, I have tons and tons of respect for SMU.
Yeah.
In the ACC championship, they fell behind to Clemson early. They almost came back and won that game. Clemson had a 50-something yard field goal to win. They had a great season. I think they have, I think they'll give Penn State some problems, especially early in the game. We've seen that where the Penn State defense takes a while to adjust.
Yes.
I love SMU's tempo. They run a fast offense. They're keeping you moving. They're keeping you guessing. You don't have a lot of time to make substitutions. They have some athletes, some speed and some athleticism at the skill positions. So honestly, I could see them coming out and being the first team to score and have some success. But I think eventually the Penn State defense, Abdul, Carter, all those guys, I think they will figure out, and Tom Allen, defensive coordinator, has been really good at figuring out the other team and really clamping down. They only gave up 1 touchdown all year in the third quarter, and that was to Oregon, the number 1 team in the country. Well, they were the only team to score a touchdown. They may have actually had more than one, but that was the first team in the Big Ten championship game to score a touchdown in the third quarter against Penn State. So I think eventually Penn State's defense will clamp down. It's really a matter, I think SMU has to get off to a big start. If they can do kind of what USC did against Penn State, where they can make things really stressful on Penn State, score some points, get out to a lead. I mean, if they could get out to like a 14-3 lead on Penn State, that would be fantastic for them. But I think eventually Penn State's defense will adjust. And then also Penn State's running game, they were really able to run the ball well against Oregon, who had a top 5, rushing defense. And in that cold weather, when you have to stop the run, that's like you got to man up, get up there and take those punches in the face over and over and over again. And when it's cold and it's miserable, that just hurts more and more and more. And I think they will just wear down SMU. And then, you have also that not only the Penn State running game, but you have Drew Aller. He's played really well. Tyler Warren is such a weapon. Their wide receivers are not great, but I think Drew Aller and Tyler Warren will be able to do enough in combined with that, the Penn State run game. I'm taking Penn State to cover the 8.5. I like them to win by 10 points, but I would not be surprised at all if SMU jumps out to a lead at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you again. I'm taking Penn State minus 8.5 in Happy Valley with the weather, like we talked about. The crazy good defense that Penn State has. I'm anxious to see what the SMU offense has against this really good defense, because SMU has, and I said it in preseason, a really good offense. To your other point that you talked about really early on, I'm glad that they made it here. I think they're deserving to be in the college football playoff. And I think this is a decent matchup, SMU versus Penn State. And Izzy's in the chat, says going to be there as well. Can't wait. Dress warm. But I mean, it's a whiteout. Is that not like? I know it's not the official whiteout because they have one of those, but they're trying to.
James Franklin called for a whiteout. There's some weird stuff with the college football playoff actually sells the tickets and all that stuff. So there's some weird stuff going on. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of tickets each team gets some. Yeah. And then the CFP has some that they're selling for like crazy high prices. Oh. So I don't know that we'll get the full 107,000 crowd. Okay. Because I don't know if those CFP tickets will sell. We'll see. And when the students, they're done this week, some of them will be going home. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. It may not be the total big crowd. Now, I do want to say Squeeze Money is bringing up TNT.
Yeah, I was going to bring that. You want to talk about that now?
Yes. Yeah. So we both made our picks for the game, right?
Yep. We're both taking Penn State. Yes, correct.
So you want to start with TNT?
Yeah, go. If you want to go to it.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. It's a great time. Squeeze Money brings it up. Both you and I have been really happy with the TNT coverage. Right. It was mostly, I think, on True TV, but it was the TNT crew, the Turner crew, their coverage of Mountain West football this year. They are going to have both of the early games, the noon game, which is Penn State, and the next game we're going to talk about Clemson and at Texas. Right. I'm really looking forward to it. They're going to do a pregame show. TNT is getting more and more into college sports. Right. And so I think this is a preview of what they're going to have to come, and I think they're putting a lot into this. There will be some ESPN people calling because they just don't have enough people right now. But I'm excited about it. I'm going to record it and get home and watch the TNT coverage, and I think it's pretty cool.
I agree. I've been talking about TNT over the course of the year because they've been doing TNT Sports on True TV. Mm-hmm. They've been broadcasting the Mountain West games on True TV, but it's a TNT Sports coverage. Yep. And I'm anxious to see where this heads into the future, especially. I mean, they've got these CFP games now, so of course they're going to be going all out. I mean, these are big time games. that's going to be on their network. So, and I like the fact that they're doing, that TNT Max type of deal, so you can get that streaming along with it.
Yep.
You're kind of getting both for one price, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I think that's where everything's going, and the fact that they're doing both, it's not just, hey, this game's on Paramount Plus. If you want to watch it, suck it up and go. No. They're actually doing it on both. So I think they're doing it the right way, and I like what they've done here over the course of the first couple of years that they're really diving in. I anxious to see where it's going to go.
Totally agree. I love the fact that people who have traditional cable, they can watch on TNT, and there's a lot of cord cutters, especially younger generation. They have Max. They can watch it on their phone. They can watch it on their tablet. My kids, they're college age. They don't watch anything on TV anymore. They watch things on their phone. So I think it's a great move.
Yep. And Screech Money, I agree. TNT was so much better than the CW. 100%. Totally agree with you. All right, let's get to the game then. We talked about TNT. We talked about the first game on TNT. Let's talk about the second game on TNT. Clemson versus Texas. This is the 12 seed versus the 5 seed. And this is, a 4 o'clock kickoff, I believe? Yes, 4 o'clock kickoff. They're doing 12, 4, and 8. Because of course these are going to be 4-hour games. That's how they're going to roll. They're going to suck it.
Commercials.
Oh, they are going to suck as much money out of these suckers that they can. So get ready for 3 4-hour games. That's what it's going to be. And we got Clemson and Texas. And Texas here is just a team. I've called them overrated. And I really should find another word for it. I don't know if they're overrated. I just don't think they're as good as their seed. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. They just have the name. They did have a good season, don't get me wrong. They've had a good season. Yes, they switched to the SEC. I get all of that, playing harder competition. I don't know. They've never quite gotten to where I thought they would get over the course of the year. And Clemson comes in here. Now, I know they're in it because they're the ACC champion. The CFP committee had them down in whatever it was, 15th, or I don't know where they ended up. So they're only here because they're a champion. But I think they're a really, really good team. They did what they had to do to get in. One of the few. We saw many teams losing at the end of the season, shooting themselves in the foot and then crying afterwards. I won't name any names. But then you had teams like Clemson and Boise and teams winning the games that they had to win to get into this spot. I like where Clemson is coming in here, Steve.
What, are we talking about Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt, and they couldn't score more than a field goal against Oklahoma when they had a chance to play their way in?
Not just them. I think there's others. Okay, but that's one of them, yes.
So I think I'm going to be opposite. This might be the one we disagree on. I haven't seen your pick yet. I think I'm going to be opposite. Kudos to Clemson. They played their way in. Dabo Sweeney, he's like the one coach that's like, I'm not using the transfer portal. I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And he stuck to that, and it hurt them a little bit. But he stuck to his guns. They played their way in. Kudos to him. And they got a lot of talent on that team, especially high school talent they brought in themselves. Texas, to me, I think is just a juggernaut. They have 2 fantastic quarterbacks. They may have the best defense out of any of the teams, even better than Penn State or Georgia. And they have a pretty decent offensive line. I just think they're a really good, solid team. And the only knocks on them, yes, you can say, who did they beat? They beat a Michigan team. They came in and crushed Michigan.
Yeah.
But their 2 big games of the year. They lost to Georgia. They lost to Georgia in the regular season and then in the SEC championship game. Well, sometimes you lose to teams like Georgia. They're a fantastic team. Kirby Smart is a great coach and can come up with a defensive game plan. So I think I'm going opposite of you. I like Texas. I think Texas will be one of the teams to compete to get into the finals. And so I'm taking Texas to cover the 11.5. I like Texas by 2 touchdowns. Again, no knock against Clemson. They played their way in, and who knows? Who knows what can happen? But I really like Texas in this game.
I'm going Clemson. Yep. 11.5. I'm going to take the points.
It's a lot of points.
I'm not saying they're going to pull the upset like some people in our chat are saying. And I did put out in X that I'm picking 2 upsets. And what I should have said, I'm not picking 2 upsets. I'm picking 2 underdogs with the points is what I'm doing. And I just gave it. No, I didn't. I already picked the one with the points. That was IU.
Yes.
So I'm taking Clemson with the 11.5. It's a lot of points. Okay. I'm not there with Texas. I'm just not. I don't. They haven't been impressive enough for me. And I like the way Clemson is playing. And I don't care a whole heck of a lot about this game, to be completely honest with you, because it's the SEC and the ACC.
This will be the game where I'm driving home from the Penn State game so that I can hopefully watch the Ohio State-Tennessee game, which we're going to talk about next. But I do want to give a couple shout-outs. We got JEH here. He's late, but, better late than never. Nick Deckard, my old Navy buddy. We've been buddies for 25 years. A great Navy sailor, Nick Deckard. He's a UT fan. He's from the Gatlinburg area, Sevierville, Tennessee.
Okay.
It's Great Smoky Mountains. I know you like that area.
Nice area.
We love that area as well. I know he's going to be rooting. He says go Vols.
He's here just in time because that's the next game.
Let's go. You want to key it up?
Tennessee versus the Ohio State University. We've got the Noles that I really like. I like them coming in. I think they could be
the Noles or the Vols.
The Vols.
Okay,
I'm sorry. What did I say? The Noles.
These aren't the Step Noles. These are the Vols.
These are the Vols.
The Volunteers.
I'm sorry. I'll call them Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to upset anybody.
Nick would say they're the real UT.
Okay, the real UT.
Yeah.
He did have UT Junior up above.
Texas. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
One's creamsicle orange. One is burnt orange.
There you have it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've got Tennessee versus the Ohio State. Line is 7.5. To me, the line's a little high. I was a little surprised how high this line is. I know, obviously, it's up in Ohio State being in the home team, but we saw what just happened to them against Michigan. Now, Michigan is kind of their Achilles heel. You have to. I kind of take that game with a grain of salt a little bit. They still lost it. They still didn't look great in the game. I mean, I'm not going to brush it off, but they've got an issue with Michigan, clearly. 8 seed, 9 seed. I'm not going to give my pick yet. I want to hear what you have to say about it. I will say I love this matchup. I'm sure both of these fan bases hate this matchup because they think they should both be in the semifinals, and one of them is getting knocked down in the quarters. That's how good both of these teams are and what how good their fans think that they are. So this is one heck of a first-round matchup. I'm not going to give my pick yet. I don't think you'll be surprised with my pick, though.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right. So I agree with you. I love this game. I love this matchup. To me, it's this game and the Indiana Notre Dame game they're going to be the best two games, I think. They're the ones that other than my own rooting interest in the Penn State game, I think these are the two that are going to be the most fun. On paper, first of all, it's in Columbus, okay? Again, bad weather, possible snow, very cold. That stadium is weird in Columbus. The Horseshoe, it's kind of partially open on the one end. You get some swirling winds in there. They should have a good crowd, although some of the crowd, you would think they'd have a good crowd, but some of the fans are a little disgruntled about losing to Michigan. There are Ohio State fans that, honestly, some do not care about winning a national championship if you don't beat Michigan, because it's ashes in their mouth. I
think they need to get over themselves.
Well, that's just the way they are. And it sounds like Tennessee is going to travel well. They've bought a lot of tickets to this game. The Ohio State fans are a little apathetic just because of what happened with Michigan. But the weather and all that. Although Tennessee, yes, they're in the South, but they're in Knoxville. That region, it gets cold in Knoxville too. They're up in the mountains and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think the weather is going to be that much of a factor. On paper, Ohio State is right there with Oregon, Georgia, and I think Texas as just on paper, the top 4 teams in the country. They have the $20 million roster. They have everything on paper that you want. But we've seen they lost that game to Oregon, close game. They had their stumbles against Michigan. And Tennessee, to me, is a team that they're kind of forgotten about in the SEC a little bit. They had a stumble against Arkansas. They lost to Georgia. They beat Alabama. At the end of the season, they actually beat Vanderbilt, which other teams couldn't do. Yes, and they played their way in. They did what they had to do. Tennessee, fantastic defense. I love their running game. The big question for them is their quarterback, Nico, young guy, all the talent in the world. He's been awesome at some points this season. He's been not so good at some points this season. Yeah. So I think, honestly, that's going to be the difference maker. Will Howard, because I think they're matched up pretty well. Their defense, their running game, their physicality, they have good athletes. Ohio State has better wide receivers, but I think Tennessee may have some better athletes on the defensive side of the ball. I think it comes down to these two quarterbacks, Will Howard and Nico. And it's hard to tell which way they could go because Nico, kind of like Raiola, with Huskers this year, some games can be fantastic, some games not so much. You don't know how he's going to react. With the line being 7.5, I'm just going to go with this. I think this is a close game. I think it's under a touchdown. I'm taking the Volunteers, Tennessee Volunteers, plus the 7.5. I like it because it's over that touchdown limit. I think Tennessee, again, I think this is another 60-40 game like Indiana. Yeah. I think Ohio State should be the favorite, but I would have made them a 2.5 to 3.5, maybe 4.5 point favorite. I think 7.5 is too much, and that's why I'm taking Tennessee plus the 7.5 points.
Well, and I am taking the Ohio State University, the Buckeyes. I think they are the better team because of Howard. You're going to hear me say this a couple times. I'm picking some of these teams because I have faith in the quarterback. That's why I picked UNLV. I have faith in Hajj Malik Williams. That game's kicking off right now, by the way. I think Will Howard gets the W here for his team. Do they cover? I'm not as sure about. That 7.5 is tough, but I am going to go, being the home team, I'm going to go with the Buckeyes because I have them right up there with Oregon as being the best teams in the country. I think they are one. In my opinion, they're 1 and 2. And again, that's why if I'm a Buckeye fan, I'm going, why the heck am I playing Tennessee in the quarterfinals? I hate this game. Yeah. I'm not a Buckeye fan, so I really don't care. But I think that's how good Ohio State is, and that's not a knock on Tennessee because I think they easily could be the best and finish the best, especially if they win this game, of any SEC team in this college football playoff. Right. So this is not a home run for me at all. I just like Howard better. You talked about maybe the inconsistencies with Nico and running game. Howard's that big guy that if he needs to, he should. I'm not saying he will, but he should be able to get those couple yards that are needed. So I'm going with Howard and the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I struggled with this one. If it would have been 6.5 points, I may have taken OSU to cover. Yeah. Or like a 5.5, 4.5, somewhere in there. I will say, and they brought in Howard. We've talked about this all year. This is the kind of games they brought in Howard for.
100%.
Now, it didn't work out against Michigan.
Right.
And a big part of that was Michigan has a very physical defense. Yeah. Obviously, their offense isn't where, and he took some hits. He started the game well. He took some hits, and then his play dwindled. I think that'll be the key. The two keys to this game are if Tennessee can get some hits on Will Howard, knock him off his game, and Nico on the other side. If he has a fantastic game, Tennessee could make upset. But if he's shaky, if he has those freshman jitters, you could see Ohio State run away with this.
Okay, well, there are the CFP quarters. We both take Indiana plus 7.5. We both take Penn State giving 8.5. We're split on Texas Clemson. You take Texas, I take Clemson. And we're split on Tennessee, Ohio State. You take Tennessee, and I take Ohio State with the spread. So anything else you want to say about the CFP stuff?
No, I think that covers it pretty well. And we'll continue covering it going forward. We'll be there for each week, each round.
All right, so let's get to the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Where is this? Oh, yeah, it's in Myrtle Beach. Go figure. Coastal Carolina, 6-6 versus UTSA, 6-6. The line is 8.5. UTSA underperformed for me. I was high on them coming into the season. I actually picked them to win the daggone conference when we did our pick'em games. So absolutely 6-6 is underperforming what I think this team could be. But I still like the team. And Coastal Carolina, they don't have a quarterback that has thrown a college pass.
Yes.
That's not good.
Not good.
So I'm pretty sure people know where I'm going to go with this pick. Anything you want to say about the game?
Before I say anything, Nick asked if OSU loses, does Day get fired? You came out pretty hot on this.
100%.
Honestly,
I already said he's going to get fired because he lost to freaking Michigan.
Yes, even if they win, I think there's a good chance he gets fired. The only way, in my opinion, he can save his job is if they win the national championship game, and then it's not even guaranteed. It's not a guarantee.
I will say the only way he keeps his job, and I agree that it's not necessarily guaranteed, but he has to win the Natty to keep his job. If he doesn't win it, I think he's gone.
Natty or get out of town.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
UTSA and Coastal Carolina, I don't have a lot to say other than what you just said. You kind of explained it all. Coastal Carolina, they're racked by transfer portal and all that stuff. They don't have really a starting quarterback. I'm going with UTSA to cover the 8.5. I don't know a lot about this game, but that tells me all I need to know.
Yeah, and John says UTSA is losing players by the day. It seems like everybody's losing players and coaches and everything else. Steve's going to get into some of that transfer portal stuff after we get done with our picks and what that's doing to bowls and college football right now. So we'll have more of that discussion here in a little bit. But I agree with you. I am also taking UTSA minus 8.5. And I guess maybe this is just because I liked them in the preseason and I still want to like them. And Coach Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. So that's why I'm picking them. All right, Idaho Potato Bowl played on the Blue in Boise, Idaho. We've got NIU, who I am telling everyone will be a Mountain West football member. It's a foregone conclusion. We just don't have the official announcement yet. But NIU, going to be new Mountain West member, versus Fresno State, going to be a Pac-12 member. So we've got the line is 2.5. 7-5 NIU coming out of the MAC, and 6-6 Fresno State. Another disappointing season coming out of the Mountain West. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've been a Bulldogs fan, a proponent the last couple years. Like you said, another disappointing season. I struggled with this game because, again, I was trying to look up, who's losing what players. Fresno's going through that coaching change. Mikey Keene is transferring.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of team Fresno will be able to field. I kind of feel like Northern Illinois just has some momentum. Yeah, they didn't finish strong in the MAC. They got that big win over Notre Dame. I think they're really looking forward to. They have some positive thoughts and vibes and momentum toward next year. A lot of times that's what these bowls are about. I'm just not so sure about Fresno right now. To me, it's a total coin flip. I just decided to go with Northern Illinois to cover the 2.5 points, just on kind of just vibes and momentum and feelings.
Well, both quarterbacks are both teams are without their starting quarterbacks here. Mikey Keene absolutely makes that offense tick. I mean, he's a make it or break it kind of player for the Bulldogs. When he's on, he looks really good. When he's off, he's throwing interceptions. He never moved very well. He's not a very mobile quarterback. But I still like the Fresno State Bulldogs defense. I think NIU's been too up and down here. This is not a Mountain West homer pick for me, although if it was, I'd probably be picking NIU right now. But I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. Their defense is really good. I think NIU is going to struggle to score here. This is likely a low-scoring game. Obviously Fresno, they're having a transition at the coaching ranks as well. That's happening everywhere. NIU's not having that. I just like Fresno. They're used to playing in Boise, Idaho. Of course, NIU plays in Chicago or close to Chicago.
Yeah.
So cold and windy up there as well. But I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. I think it's a close game, so give me the points. I hear you. I don't think I'm betting this game because it's too close for me. I don't like it one way or the other. I'm anxious to watch the game. I really am, even without their starting quarterbacks. This is an interesting game for me on different fronts. So, but we're going to disagree. I'm taking the Bulldogs.
Okay. It gives us some room because we agreed on so many.
We agree on a lot. Agree on a lot. We got to have some separation. We do these picks separately. I end up combining them, and I think, we're agreeing again. But it is what it is. All right. Hawaii Bowl in Honolulu. And this was one of the first ones announced. We have the San Jose Spartans. Had a great year, 7-5, versus the University of South Florida. They're 6-6. And I'm going to throw this out here real quick, Steve, because you may have to change your pick.
No, I'm not.
You know it?
Yes. When I made my pick,
Mr. Nash.
I'd already seen the rumors.
You saw that. Okay. All right. Well, for those who don't know what the heck I'm talking about, Nick Nash has come out and said he is not going to be playing in this game. They have a really good receiving core. I mean, he is their go-to, and he can catch just about anything. But I will say, Locklear, I think it is, Locklear, something like that. And even, I'm drawing a blank on his name, their third receiver looked great in their final couple games. And I'm not overly concerned. I mean, Nick Nash is great. Don't get me wrong. You're losing a fantastic receiver. But they have a good receiving core here as well. So I'm not overly concerned about that against this South Florida team. And we can't call it the Nash and Gash offense, though, because he's not freaking playing.
Yep.
So what do you think?
So I'm going to keep this pretty simple. I knew about Nash likely being out of the game when I picked it. I'm comfortable going with San Jose State to cover the 3.5. A couple reasons why. I still like their offense. Okay, there's 3 reasons. I still like their offense even when the Nash and Gash is missing from the Nash and Gash. Some other guys, can gash it up. But the couple, I have a lot of faith in Coach Kent. He's a great leader, taking this team to a bowl game, keeping them together, keeping them focused on next year. I think that's a big part is that leadership for these bowl games, because a lot of times one team comes in, you can tell they don't want to be there. They're just there to collect a little prize, a bucket of prizes or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Some freebies, and another team comes in because they want to play. They're playing for their jobs for next year to show something. So I have a lot of faith in Coach Ken.
Yeah.
And the third is the travel factor.
Yes.
San Jose, they're used to going out and playing Hawaii.
Yeah.
The chances are there's players on this team that have done that travel before.
And they have fair number of players from Hawaii.
Yeah, from Hawaii.
They're going home to play.
Right.
I mean, who the heck doesn't want to win a game in a bowl on your home island?
Exactly. So the travel back and forth from San Jose to Hawaii compared to Florida, southern Florida to Hawaii, a lot of those Florida teams don't play outside of the state of Florida or the Southeast very often. Right. Mountain West teams are used to traveling more, and they're used to traveling to Hawaii. So those 3 reasons, I still like the offense. I have trust in Coach Ken, and just the travel aspect to it. I'm going with San Jose State to cover the 3.5.
And I'm with you. I love the line with Nash playing in the game. I don't love the line with him not playing, but I'm with you. I'm not changing the pick. I like Ken too much. I've been wrong on them for too long. I am on the Spartan bandwagon right now. They are a fantastic team. They don't have much of a running game, but they have a fantastic throwing game. They've got their quarterback. Their guy that started, Brown. Was it? Yeah. Brown?
Started at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. He's transfer portaled out because he realized he lost the job and he's probably not going to get it back. But they have their guy that finished the season. And I still love their receiving room. And their defense is solid. I mean, I thought their defense was going to struggle, but they have a solid defense. And to everything you said, I completely agree with. I'm not changing my pick. I'm also going for the Spartans. And some of that is there's I guarantee you, I don't know the numbers, but there's way more players on San Jose State that are from Hawaii than on USF. And yes, that means something. I mean, they're going to have likely family in the stands. Coach Ken, I mean, he's going to want to win this game. I mean, he is a Hawaii dude. So the intangibles here absolutely go with San Jose State. I agree with you. I'm not changing the pick. We're going with the Spartans. The game above Sports Bowl. What the hell is that?
No idea.
Okay, game above Sports Bowl. This playing in Detroit on Ford Field. And this is Pitt versus Toledo, both coming in at 7-5, Steve.
I think this may have used to have been the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, or maybe Little Caesars Bowl at one point. So
that would make sense. There's Little Caesars everything in Detroit. Everything. Their youth hockey teams are Little Caesar leagues.
Yes.
Anyway, nobody cares about that. Yes. But okay, go ahead. So Detroit, Pitt versus Toledo.
I'm going to keep this real simple. Watching Pitt down the stretch of the season, they had a lot of injuries. They just total collapse. Trending down. I think they're just trying to limp through, get out of this season. At one point, they had high hopes of even getting into the CFP.
Yeah, what did they start? 7-0.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
and then everything.
And then they went 0-6.
Yes,
0-5.
Yeah, completely fell apart. I see their guys just want to come in, get through the game, get to next year. Whereas I think Toledo, this is going to be their Super Bowl. I really think that they're just going to have different motivation. I think Pittsburgh has more talent on their roster, but these bowl games a lot come down to, just who has the motivation, who wants to be there, who's already has their foot out the door to next year. I'm going with Toledo plus the 6.5. I like getting those points. I think they're going to have the motivation edge, and just taking the 6.5 points.
Yeah, I'm going Pitt minus 6.5. I don't love it. I understand what you're saying about Toledo. if you want to call it a G program versus a P program that gives them a little extra oomph. And yeah, Pitt's end of the season was just freaking awful. So am I betting against or picking against the trend here? Yeah, because they've lost 5 in a freaking row and they look like crap. But I'm going to go Pitt. I think they're going to be the better team. We can talk transfer portals for all of these teams. Pitt has their fair share of players that are out. But to me, the talent level on that roster, with or without these portal players, is just elevated. But I think it comes down to more, like you said, who's there to actually win the game? Like they're putting forth the 100% effort every play. Well, that's going to most likely be the Toledo guys and maybe not the Pitt guys. If that happens, I totally understand that. But I'm going to go Pitt. And yeah, I'm not betting it. I don't like it. I don't like the line. I don't like anything about it. But I'm taking Pitt. And John agrees with me. Steven agrees with me. So at least I have some people that think I'm right. And I don't really know why. All right, let's get to the next one. The Rate Bowl. This used to be the guaranteed rate, but apparently they don't guarantee it anymore. Now it's just, we'll give you a rate.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. So they should call it the disappointing Rate Bowl.
It's pretty crappy, isn't it? The Rate Bowl, this in Phoenix on Chase Field. Rutgers, another Big Ten team, versus Kansas State. So Rutgers coming in 7-5, and Kansas State was hopeful for a Big 12 championship, but they are 8-4. They didn't make the game. And the line here is 6.5. Steve, I know Rutgers. They've kind of been up and down. You don't know who you're going to get all the time. We were heavy on them. Well, I was really heavy on them being over 6.5 wins. They cashed it out for me, and they're getting points here. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, so Rutgers started the season pretty well.
Yeah.
Then they had massive injuries. There were big injuries on their defense. Their offensive line were the starter, and then the backup was getting injured. And so they really had some mid-season struggles. Once they got those guys back in and going, they really finished the season strong, in my opinion. Again, we talked about Coach Ken in San Jose. To me, Greg Schiano and his coaching, they made it through a Big Ten season and, maybe didn't hit all their goals.
Right.
But they did hit the over, and so they exceeded what the expectation was going to be. And I love the way they finished strong. I think, this team, and they have a lot of people coming back next year.
Yeah.
I like some of their young players and how their young players developed through the season. And Kansas State, I don't have anything bad to say about them. No. Good, solid team. They're a fine team. I think there is a big difference playing a Big 12 schedule versus playing a Big 10 schedule. And Rutgers, they made it through. They made it through that gauntlet, had the winning record. I love where they're trending. And the fact that they're getting, to me, I think this is kind of more of a toss-up game. Yeah. And the fact that they're getting the 6.5, I love it. So I'm going to take Rutgers plus the 6.5. And I know it kind of sounds like the Big Ten, like a Big Ten homer pick, but you know me, for a long time, I always said Rutgers stinks. That was my mantra about Rutgers. And seeing them this year, and I know they had those injuries, they lost some games they'd love to have back, but I love the way they're trending. I like the leadership of the team, and I love them getting the 6.5 points.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If it's a team from the Big Ten that you like, you're going to bang their drum. If it's a team from the Big Ten you don't like, I don't mean don't like in terms of like your homerism.
Right.
I mean, you're not a fan of where they're at for the season. For whatever reason. They're not where they should be. You'll be very clear to say, hey, Northwestern, you suck.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, you've literally called some of the Big Ten teams.
Purdue.
You've
been on
said
them all
from the very
season.
beginning they're the worst, one of the worst.
And
FBS
the metrics
teams
prove that out.
Yeah. So yes, you certainly bang the drums for those that you feel are the better teams, and you're pretty damn hard on the teams that you think suck.
Yes.
So I'm with you. I'm taking the points with Rutgers here. I like it, to your point, I like it as a close game. I think Rutgers could win this game.
Yes.
So to get 6.5, I'm very comfortable with. Again, it's not a knock on Kansas State, but I think it's a closer game than a 6.5 point game. So give me the points with the Scarlet Knights. Yeah. All right. The 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Arkansas State versus a team you really enjoyed talking about this year.
Yep.
Bowling Green. You brought them up earlier in this episode. So the line here is 6.5, just under your touchdown, and both teams coming in 7-5. And you really got on Bowling Green. You were high on them to start, and then when you saw them play against Penn State, you went, and they kind of gave them a scare. You were like, this team's pretty damn good.
And I was saying after that game, their tight end, I was like, this dude is amazing. He had like 12 catches for 170 yards, and the dude ended up, leading the nation for tight ends in almost every category, and was a close with Tyler Warren for the Mackey Award.
Right.
I think he's playing. I was trying to look. I haven't seen anything that he's opting out, so I'm assuming that he's playing. And with that, I don't know a lot about Arkansas State. I tried to look up some things. I know more about Bowling Green. I've seen them, and they came up a little bit short at the end. They didn't get into. They didn't even get into the MAC championship game. I think they lost the one before that.
Right. They had a chance, but
they had a chance. They were almost there. I like their body of work. I like what they've done this year. Their quarterback and that tight end combination. I hope he's going to be playing. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll with Bowling Green to minus the 6.5. I love. I just love their style. I love what they've done. I don't know a lot about Arkansas State.
Yeah.
But I'm just really rolling with the positive feelings on Bowling Green.
I'm with you. I don't know a lot about Arkansas State either. Relying on what I do know about Bowling Green. And so we're going to agree on taking Bowling Green at minus 6.5. And now I'm 3 for 3 with John. He agreed with me on my last 3 picks. Steven, of course, he is a MAC guy. He knows Bowling Green well. He also likes his pick. So we're getting some love from our commenters that apparently... while we don't know Arkansas State, people seem to like the Bowling Green pick here at minus 6.5 down in Mobile, Alabama. All right, the Armed Forces Bowl, and I'm leaving out most of the people that the sponsors. Lockheed Martin.
Make airplanes for the
Armed Forces Bowl. This is in Fort Worth, Texas, Oklahoma versus Navy. Oklahoma coming in at 6-6. Navy coming in at 9-3 after a very nice win against Army. And the line here is 6.5. Steve, what are you thinking?
Well, so my thoughts when I looked at this game. So Oklahoma on paper has an infinitely better roster than Navy. I mean, they have a really good roster. They did not play well this year. They had some troubles at quarterback. Their offense was just a mess. They're bringing in a new offense coordinator. I don't think he'll be working this game. They're basically going to totally reinvent their offense for next year because it was so bad. Their defense was pretty solid. They gave some teams some fits on defense, but they're just totally rebuilding that offense. And the strength of their team is the defense. Well, they play in the SEC. As far as I can tell, I looked at their schedule. I don't think they've played a triple option team in a while. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Navy is just it's tough to play these triple option academies when you don't play triple option a lot. They do have some time, there was some time between the end of the season and this bowl game.
But they do, but
it's really tough. And the strength of Oklahoma is the defense, but I think Navy will be able to neutralize that strength. And Oklahoma just does not have much offense at all. So I'm taking Navy plus the 6.5, and someone might say, oh, that's, he's a homer, he's a Navy chief, whatever. Maybe that's what it is. But I just like Navy to just make Oklahoma miserable. Just keep it close, make them miserable, keep the long drives, keep the possessions down, and just make it one of those just low scoring games where either Oklahoma gets the win and they're like, thank God we got the hell out of here. We don't have to play these guys again. Or maybe Navy pulls the upset. But either way, I like Navy getting the 6.5. I'm not going to bet it. If Navy was getting over the touchdown, if we were like an 8.5, 9.5, I probably would bet it. But I'm taking as my official pick Navy plus the 6.5.
And I'm with you. I'm taking Navy. I think they're going to cause too many problems for the Oklahoma defense, and I think the Oklahoma offense just isn't enough to pull this thing, blow this thing apart. And so, again, I'm not betting it. I don't like it that much, but I'm going to take Navy plus 6.5. Just Oklahoma, like you said, they're basically starting over on the offensive side of the ball for next year, and it's not good down there.
No. So you mentioned our producer. He's got the score bug up. Cal, it looks like we have our first score. Okay. Cal up 3-0 on UNLV. Tight game, close game.
Yep. I'm not surprised. I think it will be a close game. I'll be watching the entire game after we're done with our episode. So, and we've got what does that say here?
Oklahoma getting beat by a team that runs the triple option. John is having a good laugh. It would be pretty funny. But yeah, Oklahoma just. I think they're ready for next year. Like they're just trying to get ready for next year.
We have a lot of people picking Navy here as well. So a lot of our commenters. All right, the Birmingham Bowl, Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt. I actually struggled with this game, picking this game. I mean, because of how well Vandy played this season. Some big upsets from them, and they have a good team.
Yes.
Like they weren't surprises necessarily. Well, they were surprises, but they have a good team. 6-6 on the season. Georgia Tech 7-5 on the season. I think Georgia Tech could have finished better than 7-5. I think they would like to have a few games back that they lost. And it's a close line here at 2.5. So I love. Is it King, the quarterback for Georgia Tech?
Yes, and he's back. He's healthy as far as I know.
He's a game changer, man. I mean, he's awesome.
And the Vandy quarterback, I forget his name. Pavia,
something like that.
He just won his lawsuit.
I saw, yes.
Where he's getting another extra year to come back next year. So I'm sure that's something we'll be covering in the offseason, the ramifications of that.
Yes, it was because they don't count the
JUCO years.
What they were saying is they're not counting those junior college years. So.
Which I know you love when players get extra years of eligibility. So that's something we'll talk about.
Rising has another year.
Exactly.
So who cares anymore? Anyway.
Yeah, Steven says Haynes King can run. Haynes King, to me, if he's healthy and he's balling out, he'll be the best player on the field. I love this matchup. They should call it the Nerd Bowl. When I saw it, it was fantastic. I mean, the nerds of the ACC versus the nerds of the SEC. Two teams that overperformed this year, I think. Really good, solid teams. Yeah. This is a coin flip game to me. I'm taking Georgia Tech to cover the 2.5, really just on Haynes King because I think he will be healthy and I think he will be leading this Georgia Tech team. I think they're maybe a slightly better team, but it's hard to tell with Vandy. They got that upset against Bama. Yeah. I watched their game against Tennessee, and they played Tennessee really tough, especially in the first half. So they're a good team. I think it's a coin flip. I'm just taking Georgia Tech solely on Haynes King, and I think he'll be the difference maker, and he'll pull out the victory.
I said before, you're going to hear me talk about quarterbacks, and I'm picking teams based on the quarterback. This is another one of those. I totally agree with you. Sometimes we agree too damn much. It'd be easy. It'd be more fun if we disagreed about stuff. But I bet this game totally based on King as well, Haynes King as well. So I'm taking Georgia Tech at -2.5. Wouldn't be surprised if Vandy pulls an upset here at all. And my pick is because of King. Yep, that's totally agree with you, Steve. All right, Liberty Bowl. We got 3 more bowls, and we're getting into some discussion. Liberty Bowl, Memphis, Tennessee. We have Texas Tech versus Arkansas. Flip a coin, almost a pick 'em. This is flipped back and forth from +1.5 to -1.5 for each school. Arkansas comes in at 6-6. Texas Tech comes in at 8-4. My opinions on this, I think Texas Tech has too much offense. I think they are a very strong team. And I think they have too much for Arkansas. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to be taking Texas Tech here, but I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I'm going opposite. One of the few times we disagree. I've seen Arkansas a couple times, and I don't want to sound like an SEC homer, but I think 6-6 in the SEC is different than 6-6 in the Big 12. I saw them play against Tennessee. Saw a couple other games with Arkansas.
Yeah.
So your boy Talon Green, went down there, played, and he was.
I don't think he's my boy, but yes, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying.
A former Mountain West player.
Yes, your dear old friend.
Yes, okay.
Talon Green, and he was exactly the player that I thought he would be. Where sometimes awesome and dynamic, and then sometimes he just made mistakes. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
And I think he fought some injuries. I don't know if he'll be back for this game. If he is, I think that's mostly a positive until, he throws a pick 6 at the end of the game when they need to, just seal the win. But whatever. I think Arkansas, I'm going the opposite. I think Arkansas is just a better team, top to bottom. I bet this game when they were getting either 2.5 or 3.5 points. I was happy to get the points there. I'm still going to stick with the pick of them to cover 1.5. Mostly a coin flip. game. But I personally think that Arkansas is a slightly better team.
Yeah, I'm just different.
Yeah.
I disagree with you.
It's good that we have some.
I think Texas Tech is a slightly better team, and they're getting, at this point, I mean, you got Arkansas getting points,
yes,
which you would
yes.
absolutely love.
Yes.
Now when we're doing our pick show, I'm getting Tech getting points, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Holiday Bowl in Snapdragon Stadium where the Aztecs play in San Diego. We've got Syracuse versus Washington State. Washington State just transfers, and we talked about this very early on. Lots of transfers. Coaches leaving left and right. We just heard earlier today that it's I think confirmed that the head coach is it Dickert?
Yeah, he's going to coach Wake
Forest.
Going to
coach Wake Forest.
He's taken a lot of people with him.
Yeah, so
Tears left, gone to Oklahoma.
Man, the line may have changed at this point, but I tell you, when I put the slides together, It was 13.5. I don't know if it's still at 13.5. And even without that, Washington State coming in at 8-4, I think, it is what it is. I don't think we're a true 8-4 team. They really slipped at the end of the season. They pulled out some wins, and they did it. They did it on the back of Mateer, who is in the transfer portal.
Yes.
And a lot of those wins came from Mateer and
not just in the portal, officially going to Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah. As you said early on, officially not just in the portal, but has said he's going to Oklahoma. And then Syracuse, with Kyle McCord, that's been phenomenal this year. Their offense is fantastic. And so I'm going here. No Mateer, no go for me. It's only gotten worse since I've done this with the coaching changes. I think McCord's going to go off. I have said Washington State's defense has been suspect all season. You saw what San Jose State did with their passing game against that defense. The same deal is going to happen here with Syracuse. They have a great passing game. If you can still get this at 13.5, I'm all in Syracuse on this. We're not locking stuff, but of all the games, this is the one I would lock.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're on the same page, and I was trying to look and make sure Kyle McCord was going to play. Sounds like he's going to play, but maybe it'll be one of those things where he plays the first half.
And you never know. I mean, these guys the day up, they're like, I'm not going to play today. Right. Who freaking knows? Exactly. That's the hard part about bowls.
Yes, but either way, I mean, they're two totally different teams in different situations. I mean, I don't want to crap on the Cougs, but they're hitting they're totally resetting. The coach is gone, the quarterback is gone. A lot of staff is gone. A lot of the players are leaving. It's a rebuild. They're going to need to be focused on what's going to happen for next year. Whereas, just having a team next year, who's going to be on the team, who's going to be leading the team, all of that. Whereas Syracuse is building. They had a very good season. They've already got players coming in for next year, but the guys on the team, they want to finish out strong to cap off what was a good season for them. So I like Syracuse. I like them by probably 20 points or more. I think they will just absolutely roll in this game. So I'm taking Syracuse to cover the 13.5, and I think they're just going to just roll.
I feel bad for you, Squeeze Money. He says it's going to be a blowout. I agree. I was shocked this was 13.5. Like I say, we're not locking stuff.
No.
Although I would love to see our graphic with the spinning wheel. But this is a lock for me. I am betting this. I am betting this probably heavier than almost any bowl game that I'm betting. JEH tells us UNLV scored a touchdown, Steve.
Oh, very nice.
Go get them, Rebels.
Yeah. And for Squeeze
Long
Money.
TD pass.
Very nice.
Let me know if it was white. Please. Thank you.
For Squeeze Money, we're going to talk about the calendar, the transfer portal, and the calendar here a little bit after we get through the picks. What we think about that.
Yes, we'll be talking about that. So again, this is not meant to crap on Squeeze Money and his Washington State Cougars. It's just the reality of where things are at. Okay, last one. Las Vegas Bowl. You've got USC 6-6. Mm-hmm. Disappointing season for them. Shall I say I'm not surprised? Okay, anyway, and then Texas A&M at 8-4. The line here, 3.5. I struggled with this one.
Me too.
But there's a reason why I'm picking who I'm picking, but I'll let you talk about it first.
I think we're going to have a similar reason. So Texas A&M kind of had a weird inflated schedule, even being in the SEC. Yeah. Like if you look at Georgia's schedule versus Texas A&M schedule, it's so weird how it turned out. And I like their coach Elko, coming from Duke. I think they just had kind of an inflated record this year. They should have been, to me, like more of a 6-6 SEC team, which is still not bad.
Yeah.
And USC, they had that 6-6 season. They had some very close losses. That close loss to Michigan, Penn State, my team. They pulled that out at the end. Very close loss to Minnesota, and I think was it maybe Rutgers was another. They had 4 one possession losses. Which
I don't know.
Yeah. So which is the difference between them being a 10-win team,
right?
Which is huge. But they have some people leaving. Miller Moss is gone. Their wide receivers, their top 2 or 3 wide receivers are gone. I struggled with this game. I think it's about a bit of a coin flip. I think both teams, good solid rosters, but not great, not elite teams. For me, I think Maeva is going to play in this game, and I think he has not won the job for next year. Right. They may still go in the portal for someone. It's not a guarantee that he's going to be their starter next year. I think this is his. I'm assuming this is his trial run to basically show his last chance to show I'm your guy for next year. And I like what he has to offer in that situation. Dynamic quarterback. We've talked about it many times back from when he was at UNLV to when he came in this year. Good runner, good passer. I think he's going to have a lot of motivation, and I think they're going to want to put him in position to succeed. I still like their defensive coordinator. They lost some players, but I'm taking USC plus the points. I think this is another coin flip game, and I think we're probably going to agree. I guess we'll see. But Maeva is really who I'm betting on. That he's going to want to ball out, whether it's yes, I'm going to be the starter at USC next year, or if they don't want me, I'm showing what I can do. Yeah. To put my best resume for a landing spot for next year.
You nailed it. I am a total agreement. Again, we say that a lot. Total agreement. Maeva, I'm going with the boy. I've loved him since his time last year. I'm picking USC as well, getting the points. I will only say USC oft has a lot of quit in them. So meaning they give up. To me, this team, they don't play hard. And now they're a 6-6 team. They've underachieved. What the hell are they playing for? That's just who USC is to me. Every time I think USC, I think they got a lot of quit in them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't disagree, but
I do disagree because I think you're basing it off of previous years.
I am.
If you watch the games this year,
6-6.
I know, but those 4 close games, they didn't win, but there wasn't a quit. And then
who cares?
And they didn't quit, and then they beat the end of the season. They beat UCLA in one of those games where it came down to a last minute, 4th down type thing.
You know why? Because they have Jaden Maeva.
Well, maybe.
That's why. Yeah. And that's why I'm betting this game, because of Jaden Maeva. I want to make a comment real quick.
Okay.
I want to make a comment real quick.
All right.
Because we're talking about Jaden Maeva, Maeva, whatever it is. And we got the UNLV score on the screen. And I want to throw something out there.
Okay.
Last year, Jaden was not the starter for UNLV. Now remember, Coach Odom was the head coach.
At the beginning of the year.
Brennan Marion was the OC.
Yep.
And Jaden was on the bench.
Yes.
And they started, was it Brumfeld, who had been there a while? He was the seasoned guy. And you and I watched the very first freaking game, first snap from this kid, and we went, that should be the starting quarterback.
Yes.
And guess what? He then went, because Brumfeld got hurt, so they went to they had to. Yeah. They had to go to him. Yes. They didn't put him in because they were trying. They had to go to him. Yeah. Now, what happened this year, Steve?
Same thing.
They put Sluka in, who, he's doing okay. He was mainly a running guy, not a great thrower. The douchebag leaves. He leaves. Again, this wasn't a coaching. Now, we don't know the reason, so I'll be careful to not say it wasn't a coaching.
He said it
was
NIL.
Says it was because of NIL. But for whatever, he leaves, and they have to go to Haj Malik Williams, who is the better quarterback than Sluka. 2 years in a row. Yeah. So I don't mean to be crapping on Odom and Marion, because I think they did great things for UNLV. Yeah. But it's ironic that 2 years in a row, the better quarterback started on the bench for 3 or 4 games.
We see that honestly. We see that a lot, and I think
what the hell are they doing?
It's not just UNLV. I think it's a product of some players are awesome practice players. Yeah. They have discipline. They follow the rule. Whatever. And some guys are just ballers. So we saw similar things. San Jose State had to figure out their quarterback situation. SMU.
But those quarterbacks are not Haj Malik Williams.
No, but
not a knock on them. They are not Haj Malik Williams, and they are not Jaden Maeva.
Yeah, but it's similar. It's not as extreme of a difference, but they had to figure out the same thing. And once they did, it was certainly now one guy's leaving and one guy is the unquestioned starter. Another example of that is
I don't think that's a good example.
Well, it's the same thing.
Keep
but
going.
SMU started the season. They had the guy
that's a good
who was
one. Okay.
fantastic last year, had great numbers.
Yeah.
And they lose to BYU. And I can't remember now the starter. They bring him into that game. He plays well, finishes the rest of the season. They go through, and they're basically the regular season champs, go to the ACC championship game, and they get in the college football playoff. So it's just one of those things. Sometimes you got to let them battle it out on the field.
Okay. I don't know, just kind of odd. All right, thank you. UNLV, pass Williams to McGee for the TD. All right, so let's get to our last two items. You want to talk about, I think you want to start maybe with Penn State?
Yes.
Just what's going on with quarterbacks and then bleed into the transfer portals.
Yeah, so I think, we have a graphic we're going to bring up.
Oh, my bad.
Bo Pribula, it's been a big topic conversation. He decides to leave the week that they're preparing for the game. Practice on Sunday. Monday it comes out. He's leaving. He's going in the transfer portal. He's the primary backup. Got a ton of snaps this year.
Right, and not only primary backup, they use him. Plays.
Yes, part of the offense. So he makes this announcement. Now, I actually. I kind of know his parents a little bit. The guy, so he's a local for us. He's grown up as a Penn State fan his whole life. His entire dream was to play at Penn State. He's graduating. He's earned his degree, and he's going into the transfer portal because Drew Aller's coming back next year. Okay, they announced that the same day, a little bit later on, but it was kind of one after the other. And this is his last opportunity, basically, to go and start and be the starting quarterback somewhere. So, as a Penn State fan, I hate it. The backup quarterback and a big part of the team is leaving the week that you're going to play maybe the biggest game, that Penn State has played in years and years and years. We finally get a home college football playoff game. So I hated it at first, okay, but I kind of understood the situation. And then you listen to James Franklin's press conference, and he lays it out there. He said Bo did not want to leave right now. Bo was put in a terrible position. The transfer portal calendar, the way the NCAA has set it up, it opens up in December and closes in December. Well, what is still going on? Bowl games, playoff games, and all that. And some people say, well, he can wait until after the playoff. There's another window. Or he can wait till after the spring window. Well, what's the problem then? All these teams are filling up their starting quarterback spots already. We already have announcements. We had today. Mateer is going to Oklahoma. There was another one you mentioned. The Tulane quarterback is going to Duke. Right. All of these quarterbacks are landing in their spots and securing their starting spots for next year. So if Bo doesn't go now, I think he visited Iowa today. They're looking to have him visit at West Virginia. He has to go and take job interviews basically now to guarantee his spot for next year. Is that his fault? No. This is a failure, another failure by the NCAA. The calendar is just outrageous. It's ridiculous. It doesn't match up. We have a transfer portal window in December when games are still being played. Conference championship games, bowl games, college football playoff games. All these things are still happening in December. And it puts him in a terrible position, and we're seeing that more and more. We have Marshall, who more than a third of their team is in the transfer portal. Their coach is gone, everybody's gone, and their athletic director and president had to come out and say, look, we cannot safely field a team. If we send these players down there, it's bad for their safety because we don't even have enough players to field a proper team with starters and people that have enough experience to play. So Marshall had to bail out of the bowl game. There has been rumors about Washington State, but looks like they're going to stay. I think we're going to see this more and more. James Franklin recommended that we have somebody, because nobody's making the rules. NCAA is making some rules. Right. Supreme Court comes in and says this is illegal. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. There isn't any one person that is like saying what makes sense. What makes sense for everybody, not just what makes sense for the players or what makes sense for the teams or what makes sense for the SEC or the Big Ten. But let's look at everything. Let's look at the whole picture. So James Franklin is suggesting that we need to have some kind of a CFP commissioner, college football commissioner, for all the teams that want to play in the college football playoff and say, this is the set of rules. This is the calendar. I don't know that that's ever going to happen. It may be a bit of a pipe dream, But I think it's a good conversation to have because the way the calendar is set up is untenable. I think we still have squeeze money on here. I mean, what the hell are the Cougs supposed to do right now? Half their team is gone. Their coach is gone. All the staff is gone. I mean, how do you travel across the country for a bowl game when you have no idea who's playing, who's starting, who the coach is? It's just an absolute crazy situation. And like you put on Twitter, how can we not fix this? Look at the calendar. January 1st at least. Let's make that the date, after January 1st. Nothing happens until after January 1st. And then you can look at, schools have different, I think Penn State, their spring semester starts January 20th or whatever. Gives you about a 20-day window.
The semester.
Yes. But, nobody's starting their spring semester in December. At least for now, I say make it January 1st. Because that will allow most of the bowl games to be played.
Right.
But you do need to look at it. You need to come up with some kind of calendar, some kind of schedule, because what we have now is just ridiculous and untenable. What are your thoughts?
Well, how many weeks is the window? Was it 3 weeks or something?
I think it's only like 2 weeks in December. Okay. It's a short window in December.
Yeah.
And then they have another window at the end of January for players who played in the CFP. And then they have another window after spring ball, which for a quarterback, that's too little, too late.
You can't do it. Yeah. If you want a starting gig and you want to or compete for a starting gig, you got to be in spring ball. So I agree. I think at the very least, can we address some of the window issue? You may not fix the entire thing, but we could certainly make it better than at least where it is now. And do this the last week of. And it's tough because you got the holiday, you got the New Year, admissions offices aren't open. I mean, there's just so many things at play here. So it's easy to be like, well, just push it back. Well, okay, it may not be from a university side of things. Let's forget football for a minute and talk about the educational aspect and the university aspect of it. That may not be tenable as either. And these are supposed to be teams that are, interscholastic athletics, right? Like
right.
They're playing for their university. Now, I get it. College football is becoming a employee-employer relationship. At least that's where we're headed. So that's why we're getting all of this craziness that's occurring. And, we talked about the Wild West in the offseason, and it's only becoming wilder right now.
Yep.
And it's not, unfortunately, it's not the players' fault. And people, it's easy to, and I kind of gave Marshall a hard time on X. I'm like, play the damn game.
Right.
And I didn't realize at the time it was as many players as that it is. Right. I'm like, boo-hoo, woe is us. But it is an issue, and everybody knows it's an issue. It's just like, where's the leadership here? Like, and I don't, to your point, it's different people doing different things.
Yes.
But isn't that why we have an NCAA? I mean, shouldn't they be, even if they're not involved necessarily directly in things, if they know, okay, well, the CFP is going to be doing this, and college admission offices are going to be doing this, we're going to make sure we craft something that works with that instead of being like, whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe they are doing that. We don't know. Maybe in the future that's going to come, but it can't come quick enough.
The problem with the NCAA is they're doing illegal stuff, and then when the courts have to strike it down, they just say, well, okay, the court said we have to do it like this, and they don't come up with a proactive plan. They're just leaving it to the courts to just blow everything up.
Right.
And then they want to stick. Then they say, okay, well, the courts blew it up. Now we want Congress to fix it. Well, I hate to tell you, but the politicians in Washington, if you're putting all your eggs in that basket, like you might be barking up the wrong tree.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to fix anything anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just say, JEH says Washington State still has the team manager to the water boy. And we all saw and the cheer team coach. We know the water boy
H2O.
He could have some serious skill.
Yeah.
I say you stick him in there. Yeah. We don't. I mean, I saw that movie. I saw what water boys can do. Get this freaking Bobby Boucher kid. Give him a chance.
I'm with you.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't have any good answers other than to say it's a freaking mess.
Yep.
Everybody knows it's a mess. I think Franklin said it perfectly, and it's not just Pribula. How do you say his name?
Pribula.
Pribula.
Yeah.
It's tons of kids. It's tons of teams. It's tons of all of this. It's just craziness. And if you want, they say, oh, we want to keep the bowls. We want to make them mean something. Well, you're not doing anything to help that situation. Nope. By all this these bowls are becoming a laughing stock.
Yes.
Like, You say you want them. Well, you want them because they give you a whole bunch of money.
Yes.
Do you really care about what's being put on the field, or you just want the daggone ad revenue and you want to do the bowls? Because right now it looks like you don't give a crap about what the the play is on the field. You just want the freaking money from it. That's what it looks like.
And that continues to be the problem. Is the adult? Everyone wants to crap on the players and say, "Oh, the players this," but it's the adults. It's the decision makers, the guys in the suits, guys and women in the business suits that are making decisions based on revenue and money. What brings in the most money? Which that's a business. When you're running it like that, that's a business.
Yeah.
There's supposed to still be a part of it that is education, university connected. So if we're not the NFL and we're not just 100% professional league, then you at least have to make some you have to make some rules that like you said, keep it intercollegiate athletics.
Yes, exactly. We lose that. It's lost in college football. Everybody doesn't want to talk about the Olympic sports, but most of them are at least still being treated that way.
Yes.
College football's not.
JEH says UNLV fake punt for 55 yards to the Cal 5-yard line.
I like it. Well, let's wrap this sucker up because I got to go watch this game. It's almost 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. I just want to talk really briefly about the Mountain West lawsuits. I did an episode that dropped yesterday. We know now that the rumors are, or reporting is, that Boise State is going to be joining that lawsuit as well. That leaves San Diego State and Fresno State out of it, at least for the time being. We'll see if they end up joining as well. I will just say, I believe it was Matt Brown, EP. I don't know.
Yeah, Matt Brown.
You know him. He's pretty popular.
He's good.
He put something out today that just said, I'm hearing from lawyers that this could be a big issue and da-da-da. And okay, maybe they are. But right now you're only hearing from one side. There's been no rebuttal. There's been no counter, I don't say counter suit, but a response from the Mountain West. You're only hearing from one side. They're able to be, and I don't think they were overly salacious. I think there was some wording that they used that clearly they were attacking the Mountain West, as they would be. I mean, they're freaking suing them for crying out loud or asking for an injunction. So I get that. But hey, before we get, and it was funny, he called it lawyer people. Yeah. I'm like, what the frickin', does that mean the secretary that sits out front? Is that the receptionist? What does lawyer people mean? So I'm kind of crapping on him just because I don't think that was very accurate at this point.
We have lawyer people. David
we have lawyer
Kenzie
people.
And Doug Rohan. Yeah.
Well, they're lawyers.
Yes.
But anyway, I don't think any lawyer, I mean, they might opine on what's in there, but they're certainly not going to be like they have a great case without knowing what the other side's going to say, right? Like, I mean, some lawyers will do anything, don't get me wrong. Lawyer people will do anything. But, that's not really a fair assessment without knowing the full information. Settlement is where this is all headed. It all has to do with lowering the amount of the fee. Right now we know it to be about $150 million to the Mountain West. I'm going to sit here and tell you the Mountain West is not going to get $150 million. They're not. But they're not going to get zero either. I've already put out on X where I think things are going to be. I'm calling between 100 and 120 million. All in, from the poaching penalties, from the exit fees, from the yada yada. They're going to get 100 to 120 million. I know Pack fans will say I'm too high on that. Some of them think it's going to be well below that. We'll see. I'm personally saying I think it's around that 120 million dollar mark. I was on a call yesterday. I was going back and forth a little bit with some USU peeps. Steve told me I had to calm down, but it was kind of fun. But I joined a call with them yesterday in the evening at the midnight hour here on the East Coast to better explain and articulate my thinking.
After I had talked you back down to the calmness.
I'm always calm.
Okay.
JY's always calm.
Okay.
I just get a little excited, but it's calm excited.
Okay.
What the hell was I saying? Oh, I was talking to the USU people. And where was I going with this?
I don't know. Well, you were saying how you didn't think they would get the full amount. Some people, Pack fans, think you're overshooting a number. Mountain West fans think you might not be.
It doesn't freaking matter. I was talking to USU, and they brought up a question, and I'm trying to remember. It was actually a pretty good question. But anyway, I was talking to them about how I view things and how I view the lawsuit and whatnot. And some people asked about Boise State. And I said, well, I'm not sure about Boise State because we got into talks about valuations. And, some of them were pushing back this idea that, well, clearly, even the Utah State fans are going, hey, Boise's media value is clearly more than Utah State's media value. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I think anybody can realize that. But, their point is, well, then why is Boise paying, X amount, which is the same exact dollar amount as USU, when our values are actually different to the conference? And I think that's a very valid point. I'm not going to disagree with that. Although you did agree to the bylaws and you voted on the bylaws, but be that as it may, it's a decent counterpoint. And that was one of the reasons I'm like, wow, well, maybe BSU won't join, because if they are the most valuable school, and I've said this before, they're the most valuable G6 school, in my opinion. In the country. In the country. They're the most valuable. They have separated themselves from everybody else for decades. People know who Boise State is, and they've only done a hell of a lot more having Heisman Genty on the stage and being number 3 in the playoff. They have elevated that to a whole different level now. So absolutely their media value is going to be higher. So I think they made some decent counterpoints there. And coming out of that, I'm like, well, maybe Boise's not going to join because they are the highest media value, and what do they have to gain? Well, they turn around and they join the damn lawsuit today. So that was a mute thinking by me. And who knows? It's all about trying to get money reduced. What you pay reduced. That's all what this is.
So when we first...
what are your thoughts? You weren't in the episode. John said he's not sending you a Christmas card.
Oh.
Yeah, because you weren't there.
Yeah, well.
That's okay. Go ahead, buddy.
I had family time, but
yeah, I know.
So here's the thing: when we first started our show, we were brand new. We were a few weeks into it. We started covering the original PAC lawsuit.
Yes.
John's leaving. See you later, fellas. We are. That's right. And we saw, I think it was Judge Leby, and the teams that could get out, and they got out. They were trying to get out, and the Beavs and the Cougs, they were left behind. And the Beavs and the Cougs, they were claiming the moral high ground. Everyone screwed us, whatever, and we felt bad for them. And they had to sue to keep their money, and the other teams were countersuing to take their money and run.
Right.
We saw that happen. We've seen what's happened with the ACC, and we covered pretty extensively what the ACC crafted. Had nothing to do with real dollar amounts. It was to, Jenny, bar the doors. Don't let anybody out. This is an unkillable, grant of rights or whatever. So all these schools and all these teams, they've paid all these lawyers for the last 20 years to create these unbreakable agreements. So there's no contract, there's no agreement on earth that is unbreakable.
Yeah.
A contract is just the first step in the negotiation later of when you decide to break it, when how much you're going to have to pay. And so for me, I want to look, I look at it as the bigger picture after we've covered, the original PAC, the ACC, now back with the Mountain West and the PAC as the PAC tries to rebuild, and now the Mountain West is trying to rebuild. And one of the teams that the Mountain West is rebuilding, Grand Canyon, had committed to go to the West Coast Conference, and now they're coming to the Mountain West, and they're getting sued.
That's right.
So everybody's just suing each other. Who wins in all this? The lawyers. You have all of these programs, all these teams. You spend all this time trying to create these unsinkable agreements. And a lot of them are public schools and public universities. I'm going to get back to that. And you spent all this money paying lawyers to do this. And now we're paying lawyers to try and break the unbreakable agreements they came up with. And to figure out how many millions of dollars the taxpayers and the students are going to have to pay to come up with. It's just ridiculous. Squeeze Money says the realignment lawsuit saga continues. And it's going to continue. It's just a big circle. It's like the human centipede, a big circle, everyone just eating shit all around in a big circle.
I don't want to do that.
Exactly. And they're paying a lawyer so that they can eat shit. And it's just ridiculous. And I think at some point, to me, and you remember, I was clear from the very beginning of the ACC lawsuit, I thought the state of Florida would step in, and I said they're never going to allow a public university to pay $500 million to get out of a conference. And now we've seen other states joining them. I think 12 other states, the attorneys general saying, hey, wait a minute. And I think we're going to start to, as this continues to happen, we're going to see a movement of states to clamp down on the public universities. What agreements can they enter into? What payments can they do? Because it's ridiculous to spend all of this money constantly, taxpayer money, student tuition money, athletic revenue that should go to student athletes on lawyers to come up with new agreements just so we can break them and sue each other. And in 3 or 4 years, whatever we're doing now won't matter because there'll be another phase of realignment. There'll be someone else that's trying to take teams from the Pac, from the Mountain West, and then they'll just sue each other again. The new teams that are in will sue the old teams that'll move, and we just repeat it. And I don't know how many of the Mountain West and Pac schools are public universities, but a good amount of them, I'd say at least half.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have taxpayer money, we have student money that's being wasted, and to me, frivolous bullcrap. And at some point, it's got to end. It's just ridiculous. It's stupid. And I think the ACC FSU case is going to be the precedent setter. That's going, and we're already seeing it with those other attorneys generals chiming in, saying enough is enough. We've got to stop this. And I think legislatures will start to step in as well. Now, that may take away some of their negotiating power. We've talked about that before. But at some point, if you're a state legislature, why are you going to allow a public entity to enter into a contract that they know is illegal or know is not enforceable just so that they have to pay millions of dollars later to get out of it or face jeopardy of paying millions of dollars of taxpayer money and student tuition money? It's just, it's untenable and it's stupid.
I have 2 questions. Well, I have one question and I have one comment that I want to talk about. The question is about other conferences, and then my last comment is about timing. So last night, I remembered what I wanted to say was about timing and who benefits from quicker, slower, yada, yada. And I haven't thought on that. I want to ask you, though, do you think we've seen other conferences get involved with the ESPN agreement with the ACC? Do you think other conferences will get involved to any degree with this case in the Mountain West with exit fees, being that they all have exit fees, and if these exit fees are found to be, I'm gonna go way over and say we don't have a settlement, and a judge says they're invalid, you don't have to pay a dime of it. Do you see, because of that risk, other conferences being involved here to I don't want to say support the Mountain West, but at least let it known to the court, like they did in the ACC FSU lawsuit, what could be at risk here? Do you think there's anything that where conferences could get involved?
I don't know. I don't know that it's that big of a profile, unfortunately. I think the thing is with the ACC, there's so much tie-in with the ACC, SEC, ESPN.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing that affects so much. I don't know if this will. Where I think things could get interesting is, I'm going to throw this out there, state of California, whether it's the state court or a federal court in California, because you have public universities in the state of California on both sides of this. And so far, I think they've mostly stayed out of the litigation. I think that's where, not so much other conferences getting in, I think there's more of a chance of states and state governments getting involved.
So right now, the 2 that aren't are in California. Fresno and San Diego have not joined this lawsuit.
Right.
We don't know why. We have no idea why. But I will say, is it ironic that as of right now, since Boise's apparently joining, the 2 that haven't are in the state of California?
I think there's something to that.
San Diego State, the state schools, San Diego State, Fresno State, maybe they're, again, taxpayer dollars, public funds.
Yes.
A lawsuit that, who knows? I'll say frivolous. I'm not saying it is. People hate me for saying it's a frivolous lawsuit, but that could be how it's viewed.
Yes.
For public money. Who knows?
And we saw the state get involved with Cal and UCLA.
Right. Good point.
I think that's a big risk that they're trying to stay away from, is the state of California and the public universities being at odds with each other.
And San Jose State is a part of the Mountain West. And staying, at least as of now, knock on wood, a part of the... So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yes.
And you get to a good point. We've seen that play out in California before.
Yep.
So maybe that has something to do with it. The last thing I'm going to say is timing. People ask me, well, does it help the Mountain West to draw this out, or does it help the Pac to draw this out? What do you think about timing? So to me, the Mountain West doesn't need this money until 2026. They haven't obligated with this, in terms of these, what they call them, a side deal or something like that in the lawsuit, these MOUs that we know that they've talked about. That money isn't needed to give to the schools until 2026. So the Mountain West has a good 1.5 to 2 years to be like, whatever. We want all of this money, but we don't need it today. Versus the Pac, I would say, wants this money as soon as possible, because these are funds they could use that they aren't going to be paying to the Mountain West. As of right now, they don't think they owe them, but according to their contracts, they owe them. That they want to use to bring in new members. I mean, we've seen what's happened with the AAC schools. Whatever they sent to them wasn't good enough. Period. It wasn't good enough. And they want more money to get more schools into this conference. So to me, from a timeline standpoint, I think there's more pressure on the PAC to try and get this figured out within the next 6 to 12 months. Not through the courts, but through a settlement. Because the courts take for frickin' ever. Yep. Whereas the Mountain West is like, I don't need to settle for the next 18 to 24 months because this isn't money that I'm spending until 2026. So to me, there's more pressure to try and get a remedy to this on the PAC. Not to say that they're going to agree to anything. Oh, we'll give you $1 million, we'll settle for $1 million. I'm not going to be crazy about it. But I think the pressure's on the PAC here because they need the money now versus the Mountain West. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any comments on the timing of that. I think this is going to drag out for a while. I could see this dragging out 3 or 4 years because we have a whole nother year where all of these members are going to be playing in the Mountain West. So I don't think we'll be at a pressure point next year. I don't see a settlement within the next year. I think this will play out 3-4 years. What will be interesting is what I think may be more of a pressure point for either conference, and we don't know, is their media negotiations. Who can get a good media deal that's going to make their members happy and viable? Who can get that first, and who gets the media deal that they're so I don't think we'll know anything until they both sign their media deal going forward. And if one is like you mentioned, the PAC, if they're having trouble with that, if they're having trouble getting another member and that keeps them from getting a media deal, that could put some pressure on them. But I think the media deal will play a big part of it. And I've seen some speculation where there's a couple of, I think Warner, Time Warner, so TNT and all them, Fox are interested in both of these conferences. And so I've seen some speculation that may play into the media negotiations. Let's say Time Warner wants to buy half of each package and Fox wants to buy half of each package or something to that. Yeah. They may say like, hey guys, we want you to settle this shit. Right. Just figure out who's going to be in whatever conference and settle it, come to a deal so that we can put some good product on the field and not have lawsuits in the news to talk about the football. So I've seen some suggestions where that may come into play. We'll see. But I just other than the media negotiations, I don't know what causes a settlement anytime soon.
Yeah, no, good point. And at this point, the Mountain West has their members.
Yeah,
they could go to market today. I mean, I'll say in January, assuming they want to end with NIU, which I don't think they do. I think they're going to add more schools, but they could go to market in January. The PAC can't, unless they announce somebody that we're not aware of. They're not ready to go. I mean, they're supposedly in the market and selling this package without having a full contingent, which is apparently what they're doing. I mean, we heard from Bob Thompson that's not a great strategy. It can be done, but not a great strategy. Who knows? I'm not trying to crap on the PAC, but man, I'll tell you what, there hasn't been much news coming out from them, and you'd think by now you'd be hearing something.
Sometimes there's not any news until there is news. Like they could announce somebody tomorrow, a final school, and then be able to. I'm not so much worried about that. I'm more worried about when they go to their media partners, what valuation are they getting? What numbers are they getting? Because the PAC sold a certain number to those people. And so if they can get that just by adding one member, I think they'll be fine. But if they can't, that's going to add a pressure point.
Yeah.
I think we'll see. But again, I think to me, the media deal is more important than any other pressure points in getting a settlement. I think we're just going to keep seeing countersuits. We're suing you here. We're suing you there. There's going to be a filing. There's going to be a response, whatever.
I would think breach of contract is going to be coming from the Mountain West eventually.
Could be.
I mean, there's got to be a breach of contract suit coming from the Mountain West. I said early on there's going to be a countersuit, and they haven't done it yet. And I'm shocked, but maybe they're waiting for a certain point in time. Well, to me, there's just a massive breach of contract.
And in that California suit, the federal suit in California, neither part has responded to the courts by their deadlines, which I thought was interesting. I sent you that today. So now they're being given January 6th because neither party has provided the information that the court is saying, we need you to provide this by this date. And they both did not respond by that date. So now they have till January 6th. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. I did want to say, I want to point out, we talked about the transfer portal. We talked about realignment. We talked about all this stuff. Last year, we did a college football 2030 segment in the offseason. We did multiple, it was a series of episodes. We're in the beginning stages for all of our mountain dwellers. We're in the beginning stages of planning another series this coming offseason, either an extension of that or a new series of somehow coming up, talking about ideas to fix college football. So we're going to do some research. We're going to look at multiple different avenues of fixing this whole situation. And the plans are still in the works, but we're looking at doing some kind of a series of how do we fix college football? How do we fix college sports? And having that a topic for deeper discussion in the offseason.
Awesome. Well, we had a longing tonight. We had a lot of picks to pick. We had some discussions we wanted to have. If you're with us the entire time, thank you for sticking with us. We're almost at the 2-hour mark, which is crazy. And I got to go watch some UNLV football.
Let's do it.
So, hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. If you didn't already, give this one a like and subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.